2017 is a strange year for horror movies. In fact, the last 10 years have been. We've seen an extended universe come into existence and the death of the Saw and Paranormal Activity franchises. And with the death of these, it seems mainstream audiences have begun to appreciate more nuanced and somewhat smarter horror movies, whether it be the film It Follows, The Conjuring, Get Out, The Balco Experiment, or many others. However, it seems we are still stuck in a film state in which remakes and sequels are heavily present. Regardless of how much of a horror fan you are, and even if you're not a horror fan at all, Mother is going to absolutely shock you. If that's not from the horrific content on screen, then it will be from the realization of the film's huge tonal shift in the last 40 minutes or so. Darren Aronofsky, the director of most noticeably Black Swan and Requiem for a Dream, is one of my favourite directors. Black Swan being one of my favourite films. Despite this, I let myself know nothing about the film going in. Watching the trailer, it was made clear that this was the director's intention. So to give anyone watching a similar experience, I'll describe the film incredibly briefly. A novelist and his homemaker wife live in a secluded mansion, in total seclusion, until uninvited guests begin to intrude. Any more of a description than this will merely ruin any surprises or mystery you could potentially experience. I will have a spoiler-filled discussion at the end of this review, however, for anyone curious as to what my interpretation of the film is. The film stars Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, both of whom are brilliant. Jennifer Lawrence, already established as a fantastic actress, when she wants to be anyway.
You got your warplane. Let's go to war.
You're X-Men.
Gives easily her best performance, perfectly portraying the horror her character is facing. Bardem has a much more subtle, almost hard to read performance, but by the end of the film this is clearly intentional, and he pulls it off perfectly. The cinematography in the film is excellent. Of course, it's not on the same level of Dunkirk or Gone Girl, but it's not trying to be. The way the camera and colour are used are all working towards a claustrophobic tone, which works excellently. When someone enters the house, you feel vulnerable, unnerved, waiting for something terrifying to unfold. And the way the shots and camera establish the house and setting all help the audience to understand the fear and tension in this situation. Music is stellar, if not simple, but one element that especially impressed me was the props, set design, the mise-en-scene in its entirety. The film throughout does a similar thing to the film It Follows, in the way it constantly tries to confuse you with its time setting, having modern and then also clearly outdated technology within the same house. This works, and it works incredibly well. It disorientates the audience. Even though it's something quite trivial, by the end of the film it suddenly has a whole new meaning. Another thing to mention is the strategic use of this film's mature content. I wasn't aware of the rating going into this film, and I assumed it would be a strong adult rating considering Darren's previous work. However, the film starts fairly tame as opposed to many other horror films. No loud noises, no horrific gore sequence, just tone. And the way the swearing, themes, and grotesque nature of the film are introduced and pile on top of each other make for an overwhelming, exhausting, exciting and puzzling climax that left my cinema quiet for some time after our preview screening was over. This is a script that has clearly been refined. Every line of dialogue has a double meaning. Every curse word has been placed at that point in the film for a reason. The script works remarkably well. The film, however, I can see completely polarizing mainstream viewers, and most audiences in general. The film Get Out managed to be an almost think-piece version of a typical horror movie, adding a commentary on racism that, while strongly present, doesn't bludgeon the audience. However, this film's commentary on a topic I won't spoil really wants you to be horrified, and takes such a dramatic story turn that audience members are either going to love it for its blind ambition, like me, or consider it to be seemingly silly, betraying the established rules of the world that was set up earlier. Hopefully mainstream audiences and cinema snobs alike appreciate what the film has to say and sticks with it until the end resolution, because this is the single most exciting cinema experience I've had for years. I've never seen something with such minimal marketing that has so much graphic, intense and downright exciting content. Satisfyingly bold and brave towards the latter half, this film is one to see, and I'm giving it 5 out of 5. I'm so glad I was able to see this seemingly before anyone else on YouTube, and experience it for what it is in its purest form. So now we're going to have a spoiler section, so anyone who hasn't seen the film and doesn't want it spoiled, please leave now to ensure you have an optimal viewing experience. Alright, so truth be told, I was actually struggling with this film for a good portion towards the last half, as I think many will. After the original family were booted, consisting of Michelle Pfeiffer and her husband, for having one of their children murder another in a house they were never invited to, a whole range of new strangers begin inviting themselves in, and I was frankly confused and almost frustrated. Who acts like this? I was asking to myself. Then Javier Bardem released his book to his publisher before his wife, and his fans begin to burst into the house she's tried to maintain the whole film, constantly taking things that don't belong to them, with Jennifer screaming, "These aren't for you, leave us be." And at that moment it began to click that this film was a commentary on the invasive nature of fame, critiquing the paparazzi and the way we all obsessed with an artist or celebrity we admire. On top of this, it also seems to critique the artists themselves. Javier is shown to have little to no empathy to what Jennifer Lawrence is going through, and the ending strongly denigrates the way in which artists, especially male ones, seek a partner as an artistic inspiration, a muse, rather than an actual life companion. And this is solidified when he chooses not to have a moment with his baby, but instead hand it towards the cult-like following he has established. This drawing eerily similar comparisons to the Michael Jackson holding baby out of a window scenario a couple decades back. This all escalates to one of the most horrifying moments I've ever witnessed, in which you hear and almost see a baby have its back or bones destroyed, with the cult that caused it then collectively sobbing, only to eat the baby moments later. A clear commentary on the way those who never asked to be a part of fame, possess it only as a byproduct of their relatives, are scrutinized for just existing, until it's all too late and all too much. The baby has no character development, it isn't given a chance. The exact same way when a famous individual has a child, these children have no chance to form their own identity. They just enter the same horrors that the spouse does. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and depending on how this video goes, I may do a full analysis of the film. Regardless, an incredible film that I will hold as a staple for both horror and general filmmaking.